Hello there, Star Wars fans, and welcome to another RebelScum.com video. And lately, we've been talking about the comic Star Wars Rebellion. So, long story short, because I know a lot of this is covered in some of our articles written by our good friend Liam. Uh, long story short, Star Wars Rebellion was a pretty short-lived comic, about 16-ish issues. I think it was like 16, maybe unofficially 17, because there might have been an issue 0 on that. Featuring short rebellion stories. They were short arcs taking place almost immediately after the Battle of Yavin, the destruction of the Death Star. It mostly followed the core group of rebel characters we all know and love, of course, Luke, Han, Chewie, Leia, so on and so forth. However, there was another interesting character who also comes from the Empire comics, Deena Shan, who is very heavily influencing in this comic series, as well as, of course, a few other characters here and there, depending on the story arc that was going on at the time. And granted, again, I said it was short lived. There were really, technically, there's 4 story arcs, but the last one is a 2-issue part of Rebellion, which is part of a larger arc for the Vector comic, which is a totally separate comic. So I'm not really going to include that for the sake of this video. But talking of the toys, as when it comes down to the Rebellion, as far as original characters that mostly appeared in Rebellion, there aren't that many. And as I said, Deena Shan had other appearances previously in Empire, so as far as characters that mostly come from Rebellion or had other appearances, but majorly featured in this comic, Deena Shan's really the only character we actually got a toy of. And there's some other cool characters, villains, some that had somewhat major roles, but of course not quite as big as Deena Shan, because mostly the Rebellion comic was Luke trying to find his place in the galaxy now that he's kind of just joined up with the Rebellion. Because keep in mind, in Episode 4, he was talking about joining the Empire, and of course Deena Shan, who left the Empire, and now she's trying to figure out her place in the Rebellion, and she's very gung-ho and wants to do her part and wants to be in the action, and now sees the Rebellion as kind of doing the right thing and thinks they have a chance. And even at one point in one of the story arcs in Rebellion, she starts to waver a little bit with her, allegiances with the Rebellion too. However, of course, she ends up sticking with it. Rebellion was cool overall. Like I said, while it was short-lived, I kind of wish we got some more toys from this. I always want more Star Wars toys, especially when it comes to Legends characters. Now, I doubt we'd see toys of these guys in the future, but I really like that we got the Rebellion suits of armor for both Luke and Deena Shan in this comic pack right here that was released. This was during the era of Legacy Collection, and they're in these outfits that I like to call their superhero suits because, well, they look like superhero suits. And they're fully articulated figures, awesome detail. I think the likeness between Luke and Deena here look really good. This isn't the only Deena Shan figure. There was another one in an Empire comic pack, but more on that whenever we end up talking about Empire here on RebelScum.com. Like I said, fully articulated, awesome detail, superhero suits. There's a few other characters I would have liked to see get figures. My top picks were going to be Joran Soul, who was just another interesting character, especially from the first story arc. The first story arc kind of kicks off with him saving this guy from the Empire, and then it turns out while the Empire had him, they brainwashed him into giving up the Rebellion. And then Janek Sunbur, who also previously appeared in, I believe, the Empire comic, and he grew up with Luke on Tatooine. So I think it would have been really cool to get a figure of him, seeing another friend of Luke's grow up on Tatooine who also went into the Empire but didn't actually defect. And that was part of the plot of the first one, was he was trying to set a trap to capture Luke and the other rebels on behalf of the Empire, and it almost worked. Tango Lee is a very interesting looking character. He's not exactly human, and he's very unique looking. One of the cool things about Tango Lee is he's mostly featured in the third story arc, and he's the spy master of the Rebellion, which I think is one of the coolest things ever. I mean, why couldn't we get a figure of that guy? Anyway, there's not a ton of figures. It would have been cool to see some more comic packs out there. Maybe a comic pack with Jorn Sol and Janek Sunber, or Vader and Janek Sunber, since Janek was working right under Vader, or Jorn Sol and Vader, or something. A few more figures I think would have been really nice. What do you guys think? Did you guys remember Rebellion? Do you have fond memories of reading that comic? Or do you prefer the current canon to it? I mean, some Legends is great. Some of the new canon I think is a little bit better. I kind of prefer the new canon. I would have liked to see Deena Shan come back in the new canon. Maybe she still will. Who knows? But that era has already been written over, of course. Shortly after the events of the Battle of Yavin picks up the Star Wars main title, and that started around, I think, 2014, 2015, and then went on for a good amount of issues, and now Star Wars is continuing from Episode 5 and going up to the era of Episode 6, so hopefully they'll pick up a post Return of the Jedi comic for Star Wars whenever we wrap up that arc in between Episodes 5 and 6. But what did y'all think? Do y'all want to see more toys from the Rebellion comic line? Are there characters that maybe you really thought stood out to you that maybe I didn't mention that you would love to have had a figure of? Do you think Deena Shan is so awesome that she was worth getting 2 figures? One for Empire and, of course, one for Rebellion. And let us know in the comments. Let us know what you think. Make sure you're hitting us up in those forums. Follow us on social media. Like and subscribe to our YouTube channel. And check the website, rebelscum.com, daily for all kinds of awesome news, videos, and updates, as well as daily posts. Go to rebelscumshop.com for awesome merch. That's it for today, guys. So thank you so much for tuning in. We'll see you guys later. We'll see you another time. May the Force be with all of you, you Rebel Scum.